It is 3 days to go before a TikTok ban. TikTok, the social media app, started off particularly during lockdown, in where users shared dances and did challenges. But more and more, it has become a town square where discourse has been exchanged. There are 170 million users of TikTok in the US alone. Young people finding a voice on TikTok. But from the 19th, that app becomes a banned app in the United States. Won't disappear immediately from people's phones. From what I understand, is that the app will stay there, and when TikTok upgrades a new version, that will not be implemented. Then slowly but surely, could take days, weeks, months before people start having access to TikTok. But it's more than just having the fun on TikTok. It also then raises the concerns of privacy, security, First Amendment rights in the US of freedom of speech, but also when it comes to the impact of business. There was a recent study that shows that 84% of TikTok users fully engage with the platform. But here's what's interesting: 62% make purchases after seeing an ad. Like many social media sites, it's not just about communication, they actually become marketplaces. WhatsApp, its overall intention is to become a marketplace. Facebook as a marketplace. TikTok, slowly but surely becoming a marketplace. David Postolski is a senior partner at Gearhart Law, has a great deal of understanding on the background, unpacking this TikTok ban. David, really appreciate your time. I try to pre-see what has been happening over the last 2 years in this debate in the US about TikTok. But in your opinion, give us our listeners a background. Why is TikTok now an unwanted application by US lawmakers?
First of all, thank you, Lester. Good morning. Thanks so much for having me. It all comes down to just two main premises, right? You said the first one, the First Amendment, which is part of how the United States was built in the 1700s, the freedom of speech to allow, a government to allow people to speak freely. No one ever envisioned social media in 1790, but at the end of the day, that is what our country is built on. So that's one side of the argument. Let people speak. Let them congregate and let them share their ideas and thoughts. That's what America is built on. On the other side of it is probably the more current side of it, the 2025 or 2024 viewpoint, which is the United States has passed a law in April of 2024 called the Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act. That was the act that started this whole controversy with TikTok. The United States has been built also on the premise, well, same premise, the United States being built on the fact that if there is a foreign entity that threatens the security of the United States, i.e., China, then the government has the power to wield their strength. TikTok is an app that is owned by a company called ByteDance, which is a Chinese-owned company. And for national security reasons, they are the other side of the argument is believing we need to shut this down. Too much fake news, too much unrequested power that's being thrust upon the young and business. And so to protect their borders, the United States believes that that outweighs the most important freedom of speech that the Constitution is based on. We have to protect our borders. So those are the two sides: protect our
Yeah.
borders versus freedom of speech.
But there are other Chinese run businesses as
Yeah.
apps that operate, or websites, Temu, Shein as a
Yes, of
e-commerce.
course.
Why particularly TikTok? TikTok, is it simply because it's engaging with 170 million, almost more than half percent of the US population, and mainly because they're young people. The US is afraid of being
Yes.
indoctrinated by Chinese Communist Party propaganda, as what
Ah,
I'm hearing and reading and watching on TikTok lately.
I mean, isn't that what it's all about? At the end of the day, the United States always gets involved when they feel as if the, you call it communism, Nazism, whatever it has been in the past, has been infiltrating into the United States. Now, it's not about, a border of a country, but it's a digital border that now exists. And yes, it is becoming a highly influential app. It already is. They're scared of fake news. They're scared of it, kind of perpetuating, bias and discrimination and hate and whatnot. Yeah, I mean, that's what it comes out. 170 million users is more than any
Yeah.
kind of politician has, in terms of followers.
But from what I'm reading, a lot of American young users saying, but hold on, they're actually growing a consciousness over this period. And they're saying, but hold on, you're okay with Facebook, also with a tech billionaire, Mark Zuckerberg, who can influence tone and public perception at a whim, but you have no problem with that. You're having a deal, from what I'm seeing, a deal of consciousness on young Americans saying, well, what is happening to America? We're told we're the greatest country, greatest democracy on earth. What is happening to us? And then also, further, to add to the irony, young Americans are moving to another app, which is the fastest growing downloaded app currently. It's called Red Note, which is
Yeah,
also it's the
also China,
Chinese version
right?
of TikTok. And something fantastic is happening because it is mostly in Mandarin. You have American youngsters engaging with Mandarin speaking Chinese youngsters over this last week. you you have American youngsters singing in Chinese in Mandarin. So it's almost as this reckoning moment for young Americans saying, but maybe we have been sold this promise, this ideal of America, and the rest of the world hasn't been seeing it like that, David.
Yeah, irony. I think you've hit the nail on the head right there. Let's talk about irony in that the CEO of TikTok will be at President Trump's inauguration on Monday, the day after his app is banned on Sunday. So the irony is there. Let's talk about the irony that the Trump administration was the one that kind of, created this, like, oh, let's ban TikTok. And now the CEO is going to be sitting at his inauguration. I agree with you. I think that the young here, it's hard to revolt. It's hard to create a revolution on social media that's going to affect this. Some might say this is a form of, I hate to say it, racism, right? At the end of the day, it's about China, 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 China.
Xenophobia is sometimes quite
Exactly.
clear.
Yes, yeah. And so but, parties were trying to fight this at the Supreme Court up until the last minute, right? Up
Yeah.
until January 10th, there were the pros and cons, and everybody was, trying to fight for their position. Do not ban for whatever reasons, business, marketplace. I think that's a really important part that you brought
Mm,
up. But all those arguments have failed, and it is happening on Sunday for sure.
mm. What power does Donald Trump have? You're very right in the ByteDance CEO, the parent company, or the CEO of TikTok, owned by ByteDance, registered in China. But the CEO of TikTok will be at the U.S. inauguration,
Yeah.
President too, along with Mark Zuckerberg, along with Jeff Bezos, along with Elon Musk.
Musk.
In
Yeah.
his farewell message earlier this week, Joe Biden almost in a very almost Eisenhower tone. Remember when Eisenhower left office for JFK, he then said, warned of a military industrial complex, a very
Yep.
ominous tone. Similar tone by Joe Biden. Beware of the growth of tech billionaires, the new oligarchs of the US. And now you have a platform at the Trump inauguration now filled with some of the richest men in the world, also happen to be the owners of these platforms where young people are having discussions on.
Yeah, I mean, most people would probably say that probably Trump won the popular vote this time because of the influence he has on social media. That's a fair statement for sure. What can he do? I mean, anything's possible with President Trump. There's nothing. I mean, there are legal procedural things that he can try to do. He can try to get this, you know, through different organizations. He can try to bring this back to the Supreme Court and try to argue it that way. He could possibly pull out an owner, like somebody that can actually buy, right? We've been hearing stories about that. People that can actually buy TikTok and make it an American owned company. And so anything is possible with President Trump. And I would not be surprised if on Monday morning in his inauguration speak, he definitely mentions this. This will be one of, because I'm 170 million users, potential voters. That is something that he's keeping his eye on for sure.
Isn't the small business, Main
Mm.
Street, mom and pop businesses, isn't shouldn't that be the heartbeat of what is American capitalism? If you have billions of dollars of small business represented as on the marketplace, which is TikTok, does that not hold any sway, or is it currently only the viewpoints of the big tech billionaires that has sway in American politics at the moment?
Yes, it should. And I'm glad you brought that up because TikTok was really one of the only social media sites to really, really respect the what we call the intellectual property rights of small businesses. So, for instance, TikTok created what's called the TikTok Shop, and they created that about a year ago. And now, like you said, businesses can like register their trademark for the products and the services and the goods that they are selling on TikTok. And why is that such an important thing? Because if you as a small business have your trademark registered on TikTok and you believe that somebody has created a video with a similar trademark or a similar brand and is causing confusion in the marketplace, then you get to report that to TikTok, and TikTok becomes your police and takes it down. This is monumental. The only other tech giant to do this is Amazon. They have what's called the Amazon Brand Registry. They have the Amazon Patent Infringement Program. So you can sell your products and all those fake, kind of brands that are trying to rip you off or kind of fake products. You just report it to Amazon, they'll take it down, and all is great. So TikTok was the first. Like Facebook hasn't done that, LinkedIn has Insta, Snap. Nobody has done this. And so that's kind of how it kind of caught my attention. I represent small businesses and entrepreneurs and startups in America. And TikTok Shop was like, that's their mall. That's their new marketplace, even better than Amazon. And so now for that to be ripped away from them after spending the last year protecting their brand and registering it with TikTok, it's not a good situation for them, in terms of businesses. But that has not, I agree with that heartbeat that you're talking about.
Mm.
That has not really seeped into the Supreme Court. By the way, the Supreme Court, most of those judges were placed by Donald Trump, right? Those talk about irony as well, right? Those are his picks,
The world has changed so much that we used to talk about the public square where people would engage in real life. Nowadays, we're talking about friends in our phone and how important that is, not just to our public discourse, but also how the way we keep an economy going. David Postolski, really appreciate your time. Thanks so much for joining us.